Peter here again. This morning I want to talk about women. God's been downloading a lot of stuff to me recently, and I really got to share some videos. Women. The question is, in God's church, why are women? Why are there more women? Why does there seem to be so many more women than men that really step up to the mark? Women are more hungry for God. Women are seeking the Lord more. It's a very good question. You know, looking at the role of women in history, if you go back to the Bible, if you go back to the time of Adam and Eve, in the Bible it says that Adam was created first and then Eve was made, and her role was to become a helper for Adam. And then Adam and Eve fell from glory, fell from grace, fell from being the king and queen of the earth, essentially, and gave their crowns to Satan, to the devil. Now that's another story. I'll talk about that later. But anyway, as a result of that, God said to them, because of you, and he spoke to Eve, because of you the earth has cursed. Now, God wasn't punishing Eve, but because of the responsibility and the dominion that they had over the earth, Adam and Eve, their decision making caused the curse, not God. It was basically just a law of cause and effect, sowing and reaping. And of course, Eve was told that from that point on that she wouldn't be able to bear children with ease. It would be a struggle. And there's another thing that said, your desire shall be for your husband, he shall rule over you. In other words, dominate you. And you will encompass him. In other words, try and control him. Not very nice stuff. And ever since that time, human history, women have been dominated over. They've been basically treated like possessions. If you look at the history of culture, that's a common denominator. Women were not treated as decision makers, and it's only in recent history, and even in democracy, where women were given the vote, let alone equal rights. And if you think about it, if you look at all the cultures, the Asian culture, the Middle Eastern cultures, going back in time, the Western, and even the West. So it was not until the time of Jesus, and even in the Jewish culture, women were just, they were seen as possessions. They just didn't have much of a say. But it was only until Jesus arrived, where Jesus started to really show the women dignity, respect them for, just, if you know what I mean, really start to elevate them in society and love them. And, we see the examples of how he treated the prostitutes and, the women by the well and all those examples. My thoughts are the reason why God chose 12 men as disciples is because if there were women in there, it would have hindered people's desire to even listen to those people. Like, they weren't seen as credible vessels back then. Look at the way they treated Mary when Mary saw that Jesus was resurrected. She came back and started saying, look, Jesus is arisen. And they're saying, come on, they just ignored what she said. But now, in history, women have been emancipated. Now, of course, you'll get some voices out there that are talking about various things like gender pay gaps and just, things which may or may not exist. You can debate it, but really, in comparison to the history of the past, it's nothing. It means nothing. It's just little tanties and all that sort of stuff that people are having. If we're going to compare it to the way things were in history. But the reason why I'm talking about this is that men I just generally, I don't understand why, but men just seem to be so have a less ability to humble themselves and to seek after the Lord and to lay their lives down to the Lord than women do. And because of this reason, I believe that in the kingdom to come, when Jesus finally comes back and some believers begin to rule and reign on the earth, that most of those crowns are going to be occupied, most of those seats of rulership are going to be occupied by women. They're going to be occupied by women. That is, unless some of the men start to really stand up and start seeking the Lord as they should. So this message is really a call to men to rise up in God's church, in God's kingdom, and seek after Him with all of their heart. And if you're in a Christian family, you've got the woman as the one who's, seeking after God and leading the way in that. It's just ridiculous. The man needs to start taking the lead. The man needs to start taking the lead and in hunger and seeking after God. I truly believe this is what's going to happen. It also says in the Bible that the first shall be last and the last shall be first. So this applies not just to men and women, but what about a single mum, who's looking after children and she's a Christian? She's been seeking the Lord. She prays. She's not involved in some huge ministry. I'll tell you something now. People like this who are in the background, who are, I guess, overlooked in life, especially I'm talking about in the church world. I think we're going to find there's going to be some rude shocks when we go to heaven and Jesus starts dishing out the rewards, and He will be doing that. Rewards according to our obedience and our hunger for how we've sought the Lord here on the earth. He's not going to be looking at how big an organization you built or what position you held within the church, what position you held, whether you built a big movement or, and wow, you've got a title. He's not going to be looking at things like that, I'm telling you now. He's going to be looking at the small, hidden, unseen things, at the obedience. And the fire will burn up the things that have not been, things that are not made of gold and silver. The wood and the stubble will burn up. So that's what I'm saying to you women. Be encouraged. If you don't feel like you're making a huge impact in God's kingdom, I tell you what, you're probably making more of an impact than you think. The way this world operates with all its people looking after fame and so-called success, and I'm talking about even in the church, people jostling positions and titles. They won't talk about it, but that is in fact what's going on here. Okay, so I'm just digging deep here, guys. But women are the ones. Jesus. The Bible also says, Jesus talks about the weeping and gnashing of teeth. Not necessarily people who are going to go to hell, but when Jesus, weeping and gnashing of teeth happens after an unfavorable judgment. Now, that unfavorable judgment obviously can be when someone gets sent to hell, but it also can be a judgment where you don't get what you really expect that you should be getting, and you're frustrated. You don't get what you feel is owed to you. The Pharisees gnashed their teeth at Stephen when he started to talk to them, and then he finally rebuked them when he said, you are stiff-necked. You are stiff-necked people. You always resist the Holy Spirit. And they gnashed their teeth at him in frustration and wanted to kill him, and they killed him. But there's going to be some gnashing of teeth, especially amongst Christians, when the time of judgment comes. So, this is just a warning. This is not because I'm an angry, upset person, if that's what some of you think. But it's a warning to us all to keep our priorities straight, to seek things that are above, especially you men. You stop thinking that you're so important. Okay? Seek the Lord with all of your heart. Humble yourself under his mighty hand. Worship him. You know? And you women, that's an encouragement for you. If you're a single mum, you know, etc. Whatever sort of situation you're in, God has got amazing rewards for you. He's got amazing rewards for you. Okay? Alright guys, hope this blesses you. God bless. Bye.